Manchester United and Manchester United and Ruben Amorim potentially in some big trouble here, because reports that are coming out that are being fed to the likes of Laurie Whitwell and other big credible journalists, and given their opinions on what they think Manchester United are going to do in the January transfer window. Now, if you go back about a month or so, and even maybe a little bit further than that, we were getting stories that made it seem like it was quite hopeful that Manchester United were actually going to do some decently good business in the January transfer window. As we've been getting closer to January, the stories have been shifting, and they have been turning into something that is disgusting, that if Ineos actually do it, and if Ineos actually go down this path to do the thing that they are trying to, in my opinion, what it seems like drip feed us towards, and slowly erode our wanting of actual January transfer window, then I think they are putting the project and the club and Ruben Amorim's tenure at this football club, I think they are putting it in major jeopardy. I think they are putting next season in major jeopardy. And we're going to get into it, but yesterday, Laurie Whitwell came out, and I'll give you the full update, but he said, I don't sense that United will do any major transfers in January. That's not their objective anyway. It doesn't feel like that to me. Manchester United cannot afford not to do business. And when they say major in January, we're not asking for you to spend 300, 200 million. We're asking you to make a signing that can have a big impact, if not a permanent for, from now until, in the future, but a signing that can have an impact right now in our current season and help us get into European football. And when I say European football, I'm not talking about the shitty Conference League. We don't need Conference League. I don't want Conference League. Conference League, if we get Conference League, and they try to tout it as we're back in Europe, they can take it and they can shove it up their ass. Because Conference League is a bunch of bullshit. And it's a disgrace that United are already not in Europe. It's already a disgrace. And to go from not being in Europe to going in the Conference League is about the same disgrace, in my opinion. So we're going to get into this. Please make sure you smash the like button. Get that done, people. We need your help. Get it pushed out there. Get the video pushed out there. Get the channel pushed out there. We want more Reds to see it. Make sure you're subscribing if you enjoyed the content and you're new. Welcome to the family. Join the community. Get involved in the comments. Get involved in the live comments. Get involved in the comments, after the show has aired. And make sure you hit that notification bell icon so you get notified when we are live as well. But let me just hit you with this update, because this has, I know it's a bit old, and it's about 24 hours old, but I couldn't do the show yesterday, and I wasn't feeling well, and this has really pissed me off, because I will still give them the opportunity to prove us wrong, and I will give them the opportunity to prove that they are serious. But if they go down this path, and they don't actually make something happen in January, then in my opinion, they are no better than the Glazers. They are actually Glazers 2.0, and I have given them every opportunity to try and prove that they are not. I have tried to give them time, but consequences have actions. Actions have consequences, and if they don't move in January, if they don't help this manager, if they don't help this team, and we've talked about this before, because we all know Liverpool are going to do something in January. Arsenal are going to do something in January. Chelsea are going to do something in January. Aston Villa are going to do something in January. Spurs are going to do something in January. Brighton will do something in January. Every team in this league will do something in January to try and help their chances of having a better season. And I don't accept some of this rhetoric or talk of them trying to kick the can all the way down to next summer. Because you know what? If we don't finish in Europe next summer, what they're talking about means fuck all. It means absolutely fuck all. Because worst case scenario, we slip away from where we are. We're further down the table. Ruben gets into a position where he ultimately probably gets sacked. We won't be in Europe. We won't have money. They're going to tell us we don't have money, and to the extent of what we need. We need as much money to continue to rebuild this squad as much as possible. Why would you take a gamble? Why would you take a gamble? Why would you gamble this season and then gamble next season? It doesn't make sense to me. So Laurie Whitwell was on Stretford Paddock yesterday, doing a sort of an interview / update, and he had a couple things to say. And I already alluded to kind of what he said, but let's get into the full thing here. He said, I don't sense that United will do anything major in January. That's not their objective anyway. It doesn't feel like to me, if something very attractive comes to the table, they'll accelerate what they'd have done next summer anyway. I don't sense they're to get a bargain signing in to cover them for a second half of the season. If Maino goes out on loan, maybe they'll have to get somebody in to replace him. Next summer will offer the best opportunity to get their long-term targets in terms of value and contracts, and them knowing what picture they're going into, because it's still in flux in January. You don't know if there'll be a European team. And to that, I will say, hello, we literally have a month to buy players and help us get and be a European team. I have no problem with having a long-term plan. I have no problem with doing things that some things take a bit longer time to do, and there should always be sort of a plan for the now, the middle, and the longer term. There should always 100% be a full plan. You need to be looking at the now, you need to be looking what you could do in 6 months, and you need to be looking further down the line in terms of one year, 1.5 years, 2 years. There's no problem with that. The problem that I have with this is, number one, if Maino goes out on loan, well, the way it looks like right now is that the club they seemingly want to hold Maino hostage to have him as a body. I don't agree with this. You either have a proper plan for him in terms of, if he's not a starter, he's not a starter, but he's got to have game time. There's got to be some sort of plan to develop him. And if there isn't, then loan him out to get, and we get back into Europe and maybe we have more games for next season. But loan him out so he can continue to develop. Him staying here, and sort of everybody's looking at him like, well, we don't know what to do with him. We don't know what's going on. What do you mean you don't know? He is a 20-year-old player with high potential. There should be some sort of idea. There's either he's going to play an ample amount of time, whether that's 25, 30 minutes, maybe you can start him in a match here and there. There's got to be some sort of plan around him. And if that's not possible, then you should be loaning him out in January, not holding him hostage because you need a body. And then you also at the same time tell us that you're probably not going to be doing any sort of business in January. How does that work? What kind of plan is that? Because they don't seem interested in selling him. Because if they were interested in selling him, they would have sold him, in my opinion. They would have sold him in summer. They wanted Baleba. They could have used the money. We didn't have the money. We didn't sell Bruno. We didn't get money for Bruno. We had 100 million for Bruno. We didn't do that. They didn't sell Kobe Mainu because they don't want to. So what are you holding him here for? Let him go develop if you're not going to use him. But at the same time, you're then telling us, oh, but we can't let him go out on loan because you're telling us we can't let him go out on loan because we need him as a body just in case something happens to the midfield in terms of Casemiro gets injured or Bruno gets injured or some players get injured. But how does that work twofold? You have a player that you're not developing. You want him here as part of the future, but you're not doing anything about it. Footyverse says the statement made by Vivell is true. We don't have European football, so how will we spend in the winter? At max, we can get players on loan, most probably a wing back and a CM center defensive mid. By the way, heard the news that Kobe leaving for Napoli on loan this winter. If that happens, then it is sad. Well, listen, listen. The best possible scenario right now in my mind is I don't really want him to go on loan. I would like him to be used more. But like I just explained, if there is not a concrete plan to use him more, if the manager doesn't see how he's going to use him more or doesn't want to use him more in this current moment in time because maybe he doesn't have the qualities he's looking for, whatever his reasoning is, then he should be allowed to go on loan because the club clearly don't want to sell him. I don't even think maybe Ruben wants to sell him, maybe he doesn't. But the point is the club doesn't want to sell him because they would sell him. There's 12 clubs looking to loan him right now. Kobe Mainoo is probably the most highest valued player we have at the football club in terms of if you want to sell somebody and if you want money, he is the easiest possible deal to do because literally any of these clubs will buy him. 60 million, whatever the price is, he's pure profit. It's the easiest way for us to get money. And they don't seem interested in doing it. So if you don't want to sell him, and I don't think he necessarily wants to leave, because I think he loves this club. I don't think he wants to leave this football club. I don't think he's come to that determination decision. I think he's upset by his playing time. I think he wants to play more to get into England. I think those are all facts. But I don't think he wants to leave, because I think part of him is like, I haven't really, the story is not complete. I haven't really gotten the opportunity. I thought it was there. I thought I was going to get more chances, and it's been taken away from me. But I think part of him is like, I don't really want to give up on this yet. But my situation right now is not great. Amorim has to use the academy. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But my whole thing is, talking about next summer will be the best opportunity to get the long-term targets. Sure, that's fine, but that's not an excuse not to do business in January because, like I just explained, every other team in the Premier League is going to do something. Right now, there is a major battle between fourth place, you could even argue maybe even third, maybe even second, with the consistency of this league and how every team is performing and how every team seems to be able to drop points on any given week in the Premier League. There is a battle going on right now, and if Manchester United don't move their ass in January and do something, it is their job to figure out how to improve the club in easy decisions, easy situations, difficult decisions. It is their absolute job to figure it out. They are running this football club. I'm not asking them to spend 250 million in January because I know we can't do it. But to go and say, well, we're not going to do anything because our long-term targets are going to be available in January and in the summer and it's easier. You're taking a massive gamble on this season, and you're taking another massive gamble, and they've done this before, and it hasn't paid off. So don't trust them with these gambles, because they haven't really been good with it. They took a gamble on letting Ten Hag stay here, and it didn't work out, and they sacked him. They took a gamble on making Ruben Amorim come to this football club in the middle of the season when he didn't want to, and that went disastrous. They took a gamble on keeping Bruno Fernandes here, and not using the money, in my opinion, to redistribute it across the team because that's what we needed. We needed midfielders. We don't have money. We lost the Europa League. We had a January when Ruben came in that they bring in Dorgu and only Dorgu when it was quite clear he needed way many more players because the players we have don't fit his system particularly well. We lost the Europa League final. I would jot it down to that as well. And here we come back to January. We're sort of teetering between whether we're going to have a decently good season and good chances of getting into Europe, Champions League or Europa League. I would obviously love Champions League, but I'll take Europa League just to get us back into Europe because at least it's some sort of a substantial competition compared to the Conference League or no Europe at all. And they're trying to tell us that they're not really going to be able, or they're not going to really look, because it's not really just Laurie Whitwell. I mean, Laurie Whitwell here is giving his opinion, but Laurie Whitwell is the top journalist. He has connections to the club. He's fed top stories, and he's not the only person. This is the second different journalist to say this, plus other stories have come out in the past week or so that they are sort of looking to kick the can down the road. I don't agree with this gamble. The best thing to do is to bring a player or two, whatever you got to do. I don't care if it's a loan. It's got to be quality, though. This is what I'm saying. It's got to be quality. It's got to help us. We need help now. We needed a midfielder in the summer. I think they monumentally messed up that process in that they tried to go in this direction where they can redo the attack, and they did. And I think they're relying heavily on the attack, but the midfield is an engine, and everybody knows this. And the midfield needs reinforcements. This is why they're looking for reinforcements. They know we don't have the players to properly be the proper team. We need it now, though. We need somebody now in there. We need help. Ruben needs help. The team needs help to have the best possible season. Because I tell you what, if they sit there and they do nothing, and it goes wrong, Ruben will lose his job, and Manchester United will miss out on Europe, and then what do we do? Because we're going to have less money. We're going to be 2 seasons not in Europe, possibly. I don't like this gamble. I don't like the gamble. I don't think it's a good gamble to do. I think the best gamble to do is go out there in the January market and try and do something. Anything. Couple loans. There's no way that we can't do business when every other team is going to do business. Because we've been here before as United fans where we watch every team do decently good business to a certain extent to help themselves for the second half of the season while we're sitting here bitching and complaining and moaning to the people that run us. Do something because we need it. And everybody knows it, and everybody sees it, except for the people that make the actual decisions at our football club. I don't understand the stubbornness of Amorim. Sesko is injured. Why not use Cunha as a striker and Buemo and Bruno as a cam and put Kobe and Casemiro midfield? That was effective last season during Europa. Well, I mean, listen, he makes the decisions based on what he clearly thinks is the best. And at the end of the day, I don't think I think, listen, he's human and he's not that experienced of a manager when you compare him to other managers. Like, he is a young guy. He's been a manager for 6 years. He's going to get things wrong. So I think that's just, what it is. He's we know him. We know how convicted in his ways he is and his beliefs. And, but listen, last match, I mean, he didn't move Bruno up, but I mean, he did have Mbeumo, Cunha, and Mount, and I think that works well. I would still I don't like Bruno playing center mid. I don't think we can get away with it every game. I think when you play Wolves, who are the worst team in the league, you can get away with a midfield of Bruno and Casemiro. If you look at the first half, we played a better team, the way we played and the way that midfield was operating, the way we couldn't get the ball back. I think we get punished. But luckily we're playing shitty Wolves. And we don't necessarily got punished. And we still kind of got punished, because they scored an equalizer right before halftime. I think it would have been, I think another team, you play anywhere from 10th up, they scored two goals on us, and we're in halftime down. So, Ryan says, Jim the Rat is just another Glazer 2.0. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, if they... Listen, I will give them every opportunity. I'll give them the opportunity. We're not there yet. January isn't open. It's not open. So we can't, there's nothing to really... We can't say it's done and dusted. But if they don't do it, then I agree, Ryan. And listen, I've given them every opportunity, and I've tried, and I've given them patience, and I'm giving them time, because I think that our club, when I put it into perspective of 12 years of damages and bad mistakes and shitty ownership and bad running, and obviously the Glazers have been here longer than 12 years, but Sir Alex was able to sort of, be successful even with them here. But after he was gone and everything they did, commercializing the shit out of the football club, commercializing the signings and all this stuff, I think when you do 12 years of substantial damage, I think it automatically has to take time, especially if they're still here. But my whole thing is, if January comes and closes based on their actions, and if their actions are sitting on their hands and doing nothing to help this manager and to help this team, to improve our chances, to get a better finish in the league so that we can have a better summer transfer window, and then we'll have more money and we should have a better season next season. If they don't do that, then to me, they are no better than the Glazers, because they will be doing exactly what the Glazers have always done, which is we don't spend money in the first quarter because we run it like a business. And it's not good to spend money as a business in the first quarter. Go look at every Fortune 500 company in the world. Go look at every major company. They don't spend money in January. They don't spend money in the first quarter because it's not good for business. But while football is a business, football is also a sport. And when you look at every other football club in the league, they're going to spend money. I mean, even Wolves, who are going to get relegated, are going to look to spend money to improve their chances so that hopefully they don't get relegated. I think they're fucked, but every team is going to do something. I think anybody's asking them to go spend a ridiculous amount of money in January doesn't live in reality, because we don't have that money. But if you do something like Wout Weghorst, if you do something like a level of Agallo that we've done in the past, that's not good enough. That I'm not buying that, and that's not acceptable. We cannot have that happen this January. Cannot happen. Footy says, for me, I'm done with Dorgu. We should also prioritize a left wing back. Dorgu is young and all, but I can't stand him. He is defensively bad, and his crosses reach the moon rather than the striker. And then Footy says he feels the same as Ryan. And Wolves did not score for the last 5 games, but they scored against us. I know the result was 4-1, but that's Wolves. We should have also kept a clean sheet. The goal difference will matter in the end. Yeah, and, there are warning signs there, and this is what I'm saying. And, to all the sort of foolish fans out there that wanted to kind of say we're back because we scored 4 against Wolves, we were supposed to always beat Wolves. There was never supposed to be a chance that Wolves beat us. They are the worst team in the league. If we're going to finish in the spot that we need to finish in, we're not back. That was something that we had no choice but to do. There was no other result that was supposed to happen. We should have always scored like 3 on them. They shouldn't, and they scored against us, like you said. But listen, let me hit this a little bit more, okay? Because I want to stay on track to this, on what Laurie Whitwell said, because there's a couple things here, And Laurie went to go speak on the midfield targets, and he said Elliot Anderson, this is what we've been hearing for weeks now. He surely wants to move to a Champions League club next, with Forest already in Europe. Okay, ding, 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 right there. That's one target. That's an alarm bell. Because if you don't help us in January, Ineos, if you don't help the manager, and you don't help the team, and we miss out, and we don't, you can improve our chances to get Champions League. We've had opportunities to already be in that conversation. We've bottled it 4 times. Now, somehow, we're still kind of in and around there, but it's getting a bit harder. Villa are finding form. We have to go play them. That's a 6-pointer. There's nothing that's going to help us in that situation right now, because that's going to come, for January. But you have to give the club the best possible chance, in the manager. And the problem I have with this is that these guys, if they don't do this, I know what can happen. And in that, it can go very wrong after that. We can pick up injuries. We can start playing bad. The midfield is still going to be what the midfield is now. And what's going to happen, like it always happens, is all the fans, once January closes, all our attention will go on Ruben. And it'll go on the players and Ruben. And everybody will be like, the players are shit, Ruben is shit, sack Ruben, and they'll throw Ruben under the bus when it comes to the point that they have to. because they'd rather do that and try and take the blame away from them than the fact that they didn't help the team with reinforcements in January. You know, our club has done this before. The Glazers have done this before. And they have an opportunity to not do what the Glazers have done and then not be Glazers 2.0. But if they decide they want to go down this path, then they can be Glazers 2.0. And he says Adam Wharton is a similar situation. That's alarm bell number 2. He says you feel his next step is a Champions League club. Well, that's 2 out of the 4 main targets that we've been talked about. So Baleba seems he wants to join us regardless, so maybe they don't give a fuck and they're just gonna wait. But I think that that's so foolish and so bad because we're already behind. The point is we need to catch up. The point is we need to improve our standing. We need to improve the attractiveness of this football club. And you have, for me, there is a month of an opportunity to do something, anything that is some sort of quality. I cannot accept that every club will do something that is going to potentially benefit them. And United is going to sit there and say, well, you know, our targets aren't really available right now. We can't do it. We'll do them in the summer. We don't really want to go and get somebody else to just kind of sort of help us out for now because it doesn't really fit with the long-term plan. The long-term plan will be thrown out the window if we don't have some sort of success this season. I don't know how they don't understand this. I don't know how they don't see this. You can take, and to be quite vulgar and straight up, you can take that long-term plan and you can wipe your ass with it because that's how valuable it'll be if we don't have a good season this season, which we are already sort of struggling because every Manchester United fan in the world knows that we needed a midfielder in the summer and they didn't get it, and January might have been an opportunity to get something. That midfield needs a lot of work. Casemiro is leaving. Kobe Mainoo's future is uncertain. Although I would say he should be part of the future and he should have a pathway into it and he should be able to get into it. Bruno Fernandes doesn't belong there. Nobody agrees with him being there. And I think if you get midfield targets, he should be moved out of there next season. And there should be a competition with him up front with the other spots. Zirkzee seems like the club might want to sell him, but we've gotten some reports and some updates about that. Yesterday it was that United are looking to sell him. Today it's that Zirkzee wants to stay and fight for his place and that United aren't looking to sell him. So we got to see how that goes. And Manuel Ugarte's future is up in the air as well. So the midfield, even if you sign somebody on loan temporarily, even if you sign somebody maybe of lesser money, I'm not asking you to spend 120 million in January because I don't think we can do it. Although I think we should do it, I don't think we actually can because I don't think we can spend that money because we know this club is financially fucked. Especially with missing out on Europe this season. But if you can't find another target to go in there for 40 million, you found Senny Lemons, who costed not a lot of money, and look at him. And we got him from the Belgium league, and he's playing goalkeeper, and he's starting every match for us. You're telling me that we can't find somebody like that for the midfield. There's no player out there that we can get, that we can spend 35, 45 million on. Because I don't accept that. I think it's bullshit. So... and then he goes on to say, Baleba has a more difficult season. I don't know how much that is down to United's interest in having his head turned. Based on his first 2 years at Brighton, you can see him doing a Sassuolo type of move and going to a club of that kind of stature. He says, those are the 3 names that are the most consistent names that I hear. It'll be fascinating to see if they do try for 2 of those. Say you get quite a lot of movements in the outs. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to get 2, we need to finish in a European spot as well. You know, everything relies on us having a good season this season. And the fact that we're getting told that we got to wait till the summer, I'm sorry, but Ruben doesn't have time to wait till the summer. This squad doesn't have time to wait till the summer. Because we need answers now. And listen, if Elliot Anderson doesn't want to move and we don't have the money, fine. But I'm saying your job is to go and find other targets that we can get. And it's not in replacement of them, but this squad has to continue to be built and it has to continue to be pushed in terms of constantly getting in new players. We're going to have to always, this club always should be getting in new players, regardless of our stature, regardless of where we are. Every football club does it. January comes, they buy new players. Summer comes, they buy new players. Next January, they buy new players. Next summer, they buy new players. Every single football club does this. It doesn't stop. But Manchester United seem to be always in a position where they're like, no, we'll wait till the summer. Then the summer comes. We take too long to do transfers. We're not as attractive. We miss out on players. We are shooting ourselves in the leg constantly. And I'm tired of the club doing this because it's one thing if you want a longer term project, you want sustainability, that's all fine. Sounds good to me. I think it's a good path. But you then don't shoot yourself in the leg and say, oh, the path is long and it's going to be gruesome. You're making it harder for yourself. Why would you do such a thing? Why would you make it more difficult for yourself than it already is? But he says at least we need to bring players with caliber like Sabitzer and Eriksson on loan. I would even stand Reguilon as left wing back rather than Dorgu. His crosses are effective. Listen, they don't have a leg to stand on to not do something in this January transfer. They really don't. And I think again, if they try to go down that path, I think they are grossly misjudging this fan base, because I still think that they believe that they can continue to push sort of this longer term project. And you know what? To a certain degree, it does work because there are too many fans that have just given up on the now and are waiting for some miracle to happen 2 to 3 years down the line. But they cannot be, because you need to have success in the current moment for the future to exist. If you can't have success in the current moment to some level of a degree, there's nothing to build on. We're not going forward, we're standing still. And when you stand still in a league where other people are constantly moving forward, we are going backwards. And we have been doing this for 12 years straight. Villa did not score a single goal in their first 3 games and faced 3 straight losses, but now look at them. Unai turned them around, and this is what's going to happen in the league. I've been saying this. Right now, it is still fairly inconsistent. Villa seem to be finding their feet, and Villa are marching forward. And every other club that's in between 4th and about 15th place, there's too many different options in terms of there's so many different clubs that could potentially do the same as Villa are doing right now, sort it out, find their feet. And after you get 3 or 4 clubs that do that, if we're not one of them, guess where we're going? We're not keeping up with them. We're going backwards. Grace says, are we still talking about the midfield? Of course we are. We're talking about the midfield, but we're talking about January in specific. Because the club keep pushing out these things and they're turning away from the previous stories. They're pushing away from the previous stories of that they were going to look to do some sort of substantial transfers in January. And they're drip feeding it through the likes of people like Laurie Whitwell and other top journalists. And even mid-tier journalists, they're drip feeding it to the fans of don't expect anything really. They're drip feeding it in. They're not showing confidence. They're not giving me confidence that they're going to do anything. The wording that is coming out of this football club is like, well, maybe we'll see if we'll do something. I don't know. It really depends on a lot of things. If we kind of feel like it, we're not really that interested. That's not what I want to hear from them. What I want to hear from them is we're absolutely going to try to do something. We're going to look from it. Don't make a mistake. It's difficult. And I can understand that it's difficult. and things might not be able to develop. But that's not the messaging they're giving us. The messaging they're giving us is they pretty much have given up on January before it's even started. The messaging they're giving us is that, oh, it's quite impossible. So, don't expect anything. Just think about next summer. Just think about how great next summer is going to be. And when they tell me that, I can't think of how great next summer is going to be, because all I can think about is how shit next summer could possibly be because of the ramifications of the decision of the people running our football club. Have you been to Jim's house yet? Not yet, Grace. That's my next stop. I'm going to give him January. They get January. They get to prove me and everybody else that has worries, concerns, doubts about them and this January. They have January to prove everybody wrong. And based on what they do in January, we'll determine if I'm taking a trip to Sir Jim Ratcliffe's house and giving him a stern talking to. Are they saying this to keep our feet on the ground? And if they do something, even alone, we're all happy. Whereas if they say they do something, they don't do it, they get hate. You know what, Grace? It's a very good point. And maybe they are doing this. Because Sir Jim seems to sort of do things like this. He sort of seems to play around with public perception and the media and stuff like that. We've seen examples of this before, where he said the club was going to go bust, and it wasn't actually necessarily true, when they were telling us the whole time that, United are going to struggle to do some sort of business in the summer because funds aren't going to be available, and it's going to highly rely on outs. We still spent a decently good amount of money when they made it seem like we weren't going to be able to spend over 100 million. So they could very well do this. And this is why I'm saying I'm just giving a warning shot here. I'm just expressing my concerns if it goes the wrong way. In my opinion, what is the complete and utterly wrong way. I'm still going to give them the opportunity. They have it in January. I will give them the opportunity to show us that they're going to do something. And maybe they're doing this to sort of tote the line and sort of cover their ass in a certain extent. But I think it still has a potential to backfire on them, because the perception is if they don't end up getting something done, everybody's going to sort of look back to this and be like, well, they were quite clearly saying that they didn't want to do anything or that they couldn't do anything, and then they decided not to do anything. But I think you are right. There is a play in this, in the terms of that they're telling us that it ain't looking too good. It's not looking too great. It's kind of like a situation where, like, the outcome of something is going to happen, maybe, or, maybe it's somebody's birthday or it's Christmas, and you play around with them and you're like, yeah, listen, I don't know if, I'm going to be able to get you that PS5, little Timmy. Times are a bit hard. Meanwhile, you already have the fucking PS5 in your closet, ready to go, or, you have the money for it, or, you're probably going to be able to get it somehow. And then, Christmas comes and you're like, here you go. And, then little Timmy is happy because he's got his PS5, and he's so surprised because you told him he wasn't going to get it, and he was really down, and now you got it for him, and you just made him a lot more happier. And this is also another angle that they could be doing in terms of making it look quite bleak. Fans get pissed off, but we have to be careful with that, because, again, when they make the situation the worst possible, and this I would say is Glazer tactics, because they've done this multiple times, instead of making it, positive, instead of making it like a strong stance in that, yeah, we're definitely going to go do something, we have to do something, it's on us, and it's not so great, you're going to let everybody down and they're going to be pissed. When you give them the view of things are looking very dark, and then they do something mediocre, most people will look at it and be like, well, it's better than nothing. Meanwhile, they gave us crumbs instead of giving us the full meal, like they are supposed to. Instead of giving us something that actually is going to nourish us, and that actually tastes, it might not be the greatest tasting thing in the world, but it tastes good enough. It tastes good enough. It's good enough. It helps you nourish your body. Instead of doing that, they're going to be like, listen, I don't know, the food's going to be really shit. We don't have the ingredients. And yeah, it's probably going to be one of the worst things you tasted. And then they come out with something that's, half decent. And you're like, oh my God, this is so much better than I thought it was going to be. Like, thank you for this. Meanwhile, they could have cooked you up something way better. They could have cooked you up for something to be way better. Jim says we may not. Then they don't do anything. They can say we did say we might not, but if they get Gallagher on loan, they look good. And I think that's probably I think that's a strong possibility. I think that's a fair argument to make because we've seen Sir Jim sort of do this before. We've seen the club sort of do this before. But my analogy for this is, what I don't want though is, and what I won't accept is if they try to feed us the crumbs. Because I see this, and not to get political, but I mean, this happens all over the world. I mean, it happens in politics. It happens with us at Manchester United. They do things that don't benefit people. They don't do things that benefit the things that they're in charge of. They let it be, shit. And then they come out sort of at the end or in bad times when they need to. And they give the people a little bit of something. And I call them crumbs, and people eat it up, and they thank them for it. Meanwhile, they could be doing so much more, but people are just thankful to get the crumbs because they look at it and they say it's better than nothing. Crumbs are better than nothing. And to me, I always think that's the wrong thing, the wrong mentality to have, because crumbs are better than nothing, but you're missing the point of they can give us way more than just crumbs. So actually, they're doing us a disservice. Andresito says I'm starting to be everyone out. Well, we should get to that point if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, everybody has a job to do. The players, the manager, and our hierarchy, and our owners. They all have a job to do. If they're not doing their job, then get out of this football club. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. But like I said, I think with Ineos specifically, I'm giving warning shots because this is worrying me. And I don't agree if they go down a certain path with it. And if they do go down this certain path, I mean, they're going to lose me on it because I think the ramifications out of it and the consequences, I've talked a lot about consequences and we've seen a lot of them happen. And I think the consequences to come out of going down the path that no one wants us to go down because nobody thinks it's a good idea. And nobody believes that we'll be able to get away with it, besides maybe these guys. And they've taken so many gambles already, and it hasn't worked for them. The gambles they have taken at Manchester United, nothing has produced something that is massively positive. So I don't really trust them to take a gamble and say, well, January's hard and our targets aren't available and we don't really want to get anybody because they're not really part of the plans. You got to sort something out. You can't just put all your eggs into, we'll somehow squeak by or, we should be able to get a good spot in terms of Champions League or Europa League this season with what we have and the way the team is performing. And Ruben has to sort it out more. And then when we get to the summer, we'll sign all the people that you want us to sign and that you think we should sign because it's just too risky of a gamble to do that. If we don't, the ramifications out of it are massive. We're going to get massively hurt from it. And I don't think it's very smart to take this gamble. I don't think it's very smart to put this season in jeopardy, next season in jeopardy, and the summer transfer window in jeopardy. Because obviously I agree. Like obviously January is not a long time to do business. It's a month. It's short. It's in the middle of the season. So I understand the difficulty. I get that. And I understand how the summer is way better because that's generally when a lot more teams are opening to selling and more players are opening to moving and you have way longer to do deals and it's better to do, the deals then. But that's no excuse for not doing anything in January. That's no excuse for sitting there and it's sort of the same as like there's no value in the market, just reworded in different words under a different guise. And I don't accept it at all. Gray says it's more fan expectation. If Ineos say we may do something, we might not. But then it's on the fans whether they keep their feet on the ground or their head in the sky. It's like saying a kid may or may not get a PS5 for Christmas. If the kid now thinks he will 100% get a PS5 but don't get it, they're unhappy. And I think that is maybe probably one of the angles that they're trying to hit here. But my whole thing, my whole major point about this is that it's all about their actions. It's all about their actions. Because when that January window closes, if we got nobody, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable to the fullest account. And they're going to have to deal with the repercussions, as they rightfully should, from the fan base. The fan base, should be up in arms with that. If they do something, if they tell us right now that it ain't looking too good, we may or may not do something, and then they do something of quality, and I will judge the quality of what they do. Everybody should be judging what quality it is, and they should keep in mind of what we need and what needs to happen. And then we go from there. So to me, they can try and tote this down the middle line so that they can be like, well, we sort of told you that, it was difficult and some things might not happen. And, we didn't promise you that you're going to get a PS5, so you didn't get your hopes up. But there's too many United fans out there that aren't stupid, that aren't blinded, and we know we need help, and we know we have to do something. And you can't tell us that the club is unable to do anything. We are a large institution. We're down on our ass. But there's just no way that you can't do anything. That's there's no way you can't do anything that's gonna help us. There's just no way. There's just no way. Jim just texted me saying, "Bring it on." You ain't shit, bro. Well, tell him back. Tell him I'm bringing it, bro. Tell him I'm bringing it full force. Tell him to get the boxing gloves. Tell him to lace up. We're going 12 rounds. Me and Jimmy. Just because fans want a midfielder doesn't mean Ineos will buy a midfielder. It is fan expectation versus reality. Well, the disagreement that I have there with that, Grace, is that they know that they need a midfielder as well. Expectations is that you go and get the midfielder. And I get what you're saying. But when you back it out just a little bit, they know we need midfielders. We know we need midfielders. Everybody knows we need midfielder because we needed one. We needed one in the summer. We didn't get it. We're watching the team play. Everybody's always talking about the midfield. And why? Because it is a fact that we need midfielders. And they know this because they're telling us we're going to get the midfielders in the summer. But for me, when I kind of look at it, I'm like, well, that midfield, the whole midfield is basically up in the air. And there's a lot of room and a lot of movement. And we don't really need to spend on the attack. At the current moment in time, we actually probably have too many players for the number 10 position. So there should be outs going there. And the focus then comes on the midfield and then the defensive line as well. Those are the next areas. So they can't really, it's quite clear to them they need midfielders. So they need to make a move on it. And I think even if we get our two midfielders, right? Even if we get two midfielders in the summer, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, Ugarte may go. We don't know what's going to happen, but many people would get rid of him and sell him. People will let Cass walk. Although there was talk that, we might try to keep him for another season. But a lot of people would let Cass go. Nobody would play Bruno in the position he plays. And people want to see Kobe Mainu play. So even if we get in a good position, finish in a European spot, which is Champions League or Europa League for me this season, and we go into Europe next season, most people will tell you two midfielders in the summer plus Kobe Mainu, that's 3 midfielders. We play a midfield 2. We still need another midfielder, realistically, to cover everything. So you can try and get that sort of lesser, maybe not starter midfielder that would go if you had maybe the likes of Elliot Anderson and Wharton or something like that, plus Kobe. You can go and get the guy. You can go and find the guy now. There's got to be somebody, anybody, that's of quality. Lawrence says, good evening. Still long time between matches. Need squad players brought or loaned in January. And this is what I'm saying. Like, there's a certain level that we can do. It's one thing, listen, if we can't get Wharton, he doesn't want to move, they don't want to sell, it's too expensive, fine. We do it in the summer. You can't do it for Elliot Anderson, fine. We do it in the summer, or we go for it in the summer. Maybe even try in January. Maybe test the waters. Maybe put in a bid if you have the money. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. But, Angelo Stiller, 45 million, or some other target out there. 40 million. You're telling me we can't do one deal in January for 40 million? There's nobody out there that we can buy for 40 million, 45 million. We don't have 45 million to spend. I don't buy that. I don't believe it. And they need to make it happen. Jim said, get your subs up first. You can't afford Monaco Pro. Well, fair play to Jim. Fair play to Jim. I'm trying more than he is to try and help Ruben Amorim. So, listen. He also said a couple other things, right? Let me hit on this. What about Edison? I mean, even Edison will be an improvement. It's probably good, the money-wise. I mean, contract negotiations have stalled. He's going to have like a year left in his contract. They don't want to lose him for free. There's a bargain there to do. But it's if they think he fits and if they decide to go for him. But this is what I'm saying. It's literally quite impossible that there is nobody that we can get in to improve our midfield situation that can provide some sort of quality. So for them to then come out at the end of January and say, well, there was just nothing we could do about it, it's not acceptable. Nobody should accept this. And in my opinion, they should get absolutely hit on it, 100%, because then it all depends on how things go after that. If we slip away from the position we're in, if we end up finishing in 8th or 10th, and we're far away from where we are now, and we're not in the conversation anymore, well, a lot of people are going to go and jump on Ruben like they're jumping on Ruben now. And I get why, because he still has a job to do, but people then shouldn't forget, I mean, they just fucked him in January when they had an opportunity to help. And I mean, look at Arne Slot. He's struggling. They just spent a shit ton of money. And Liverpool are 100% going to go spend more money in January to go try and help Arne Slot and help the squad. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about the manager. They're going to get somebody that is going to be there and help the team, regardless if Arne Slot continues to be the manager. We need to be doing the same. Ruben can use him in the now. If Ruben doesn't end up being here, we still need improvements. Whether Ruben's here or not, whether Ruben gets the sack or he doesn't, we're still going to need improvements. The next guy that would come in would still need midfielders. He would still need help. The squad still needs to continue to improve. So they have to do something about it. What about Mbeumo right wing back, Bruno 10, with Cunha, Meno midfield? Cunha and Meno in the midfield. Why would you put Cunha in the midfield? I mean, Mbeumo, he could possibly play right wing back. I mean, Ruben doesn't say it's right wing back, so, he's described that position as right midfielder, according to him, because I guess of the player that plays there. So that's how he tends to see these things. Because Diallo is there, it's not right wing back, it's right mid, because he's not a defender. If you play Mazawari or Delo, it then turns into right wing back and not a right mid because he's not a wing. They're not wingers. So Bruno and Cunha 10. Oh, Bruno 10. Oh, Bruno 10 with Cunha. Sorry, I apologize. The lights are bright in my eyes, and sometimes they hurt my eyes. I'll blame it on the lights. Yeah, I mean, listen, you could do that. I think in Buemo, it wouldn't even necessarily be him. It wouldn't even be right wing back. He would just be playing right mid. But I mean, what do you do with Ahmad? Because I think we need to play Ahmad. I think what should be happening right now, and what we have, is, for me, the competition should be between. I think it should be between Cunha, Sesko, sort of a striker. If Sesko's struggling, not getting the job done, then have him come on as a sub. But they don't want it that aspect because we spent a good amount of money on him, and he's supposed to be starting. But and then in terms of the 10, there should be competition between Bruno and Buemo, Mason Mount, and Zirkzee. And we have probably 1-2 extra for the amount of matches we're playing right now. And if if Cunha, I mean, if Zirkzee is out of favor in that position, then we don't need him. So do a deal and get him out. Then the midfield is a problem because then you're talking about specifically, you have Meno, you have Cass, and you have Ugarte. In terms of that, we still need somebody in the midfield to fill up the spot just in case. I mean, if Meno gets injured, we're going to have to revert back. What if Cass gets injured? We're going to have to use Ugarte. Then we only have Meno and Ugarte, and we don't have anybody, to come off the bench. What if they're struggling in matches? What if we need subs? So we still need numbers there. You didn't read it properly, blame Ineos. I blame the Glazers. I blame the Glazers first. But listen, I mean, like Laurie will continue to go on and say, if United will try and sign 2 midfielders. He said, I could see them trying, certainly. He said, I think the potential for outgoings, Casemiro Ugarte, which I just spoke about, the group meeting with Amorim basically saying the work rate, the commitment wasn't to his liking from Ugarte. There's been that element running through the summer, and he's not been featuring. I think will all that go on? You can see them trying to go for 2. I suppose it's just money and persuading the players and seeing how that falls. Again, it all sounds very nice, but that all has an impact on what we do this season. The money has a direct impact on what we do this season. The higher up in the table we finish, we'll get better money. If we finish in Europe, we'll have more money. Why I don't agree, and I think it's a very bad idea for the club to gamble on. Yeah, we hope we get there, and if we don't, then we'll be fucked, and we'll have to do what we got to do because we fucked ourselves. I don't think it's a smart plan. I think it's stupid, and I don't want to see us go down that path because I think there's more of a chance of it going wrong than it is right. At Manchester United, we haven't had, over the last 12 years, we haven't had a lot of things that we've been sort of lucky that turned out to be positives that have gone our way. Mostly a lot of the shit that we do, we take a risk or a gamble on it, and it goes backwards on us, and it fucks us. And I don't want to see that happening again, especially when you have the opportunity and the chance to not do that. For me, right now, it's in our hands. Right now, it's in the hands of the people that are running us. They can take us down one path. They can take us down another path. They seem like they want to go down one path for who knows what reason, because maybe it's better financially or it's easier for them to do. I would tell them tough shit because you need to sort out the now. Again, for me, it's like the future is all fine, but if you're not taking care of the now, there's no future. It's like it's like talking about opening up your own business and having all these great ambitions for your future and talking about you're going to do this and you're going to do that. But if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're eating bad food and you're unhealthy, and you're pushing yourself down a path where you may get a bunch of maybe diseases or something like that, or have serious health conditions, well, what fucking good is the point in talking about the future? You're not going to get there, are you? Because you're not taking care of yourself in the immediate. You need to take care of yourself in the immediate to get to the future. You need to be doing both. You can't just be like the future, and in the immediate term you'd be like, yeah, whatever happens, and then we'll figure it out. It doesn't work like that. If Cass and Ugarte go, Bruno is staying. Well, he might be. I think. Listen, I don't think that there is a very good possibility that Bruno goes, unless things majorly change. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if Bruno actually necessarily wants to leave. I think it's really up to him. I think there's too many factors. We know for a fact that Ruben doesn't want him to go and values him very highly, and he's not going to. I don't think Ruben's going to change his mind on that. I think Ruben will be making a case and advocating that he does not want to sell Bruno Fernandes next summer. I think he wants Bruno to stay here throughout the process of this whole thing that we're going through. The only thing that sort of changes is if the club, Jason Wilcox and others, overrule Ruben Amorim on that decision, which I don't know if they're going to do, because maybe some of them agree with them and maybe it's quite split. But the only way he goes is if they do that and they go to push him out, in which case then I think Bruno will be like, well, I'm not wanted here, so I will move, because he's made that quite clear as well. He's always said, if the club wants me to stay, then I'm more than happy to stay. When they tell me they don't want me here, I will go, because I don't want to be at a place that I'm not wanted, so I'm not going to stay somewhere where I don't want it. I'd rather Bruno go, Ugarte stay as a squad player. Nah, I mean, for me, I think they all go. I think they all go. I think Cash will go. I think Ugarte seems like he wasn't the correct buy, and I think we should look to move him out, because we shouldn't be holding players that aren't going to help us. And I sort of agree with the legend of Barada saying that you get about 2 seasons to sort of prove some type of worth and show some type of potential. I don't think he was necessarily a good buy. He's the rest of the season, but I mean, it's not looking very good. He's out of favor with Ruben. Ruben's not giving him many opportunities. Not that we have a lot of opportunities anyway, but I mean, from what I see from Ugarte, him coming on, he hasn't done anything that I would say he's better than Casemiro. So, and then to me, like I always said, like, listen, I like Bruno Fernandes. I do. I like Bruno Fernandes. I think he's a good player. I think he could be helpful. I would like to see him as 10. I don't want to see him in the midfield, but I still believe and I still hold true. And I don't know if we'll get this money now, because I kind of said it was a once in a lifetime sort of thing. There's no guarantee we were ever going to get that offer. But you tell me Bruno Fernandes for 100 million, and I'll lower it to 80. And you tell me we need money, and you tell me that we need still a massive overhaul in the squad, which I absolutely 100% believe. And I still believe the best thing to do is to take the money. We lose an important player and a big player, somebody that's had a big impact at our club and has carried us through some seasons and different times. He's let us down at times as well, but he's been our most impactful post-Fergie signing in terms of numbers, goals and assists. He's won us matches. You let him go, you take that 80 million, you redistribute it into the team, and you move forward. So for me, if I was in charge, I'm doing a massive overhaul. And I'm talking about massive overhaul. Casemiro's going. I'm looking to get Ugarte out. And if somebody can come and give me an offer of Bruno Fernandes for 80 million, something substantially high, where it actually helps us in terms of I can take this money and definitely use it to get 1 or 2 good quality players into the squad and change the dynamic of the team, then I'm doing it. And I'm keeping Kobe Mainoo, and I'll get two midfielders in for sure, and Kobe will be a part of that, and there'll be proper rotation, and there'll be proper chances for everybody, and the best player will play. If I sign Adam Warden and I sign Anderson or Baleba, yes, they're talented, but if Kobe's playing better than one of them, well, then one of them is going to the bench, and they're going to fight for their fucking spot, like how it should be. Lucky says, Ugarte, Luke Shaw out. Well, listen, the difference between Ugarte and Luke Shaw is that I don't think Luke Shaw has much resellability, although maybe he's become a bit more attractive, but I think Luke Shaw has actually been good this season. Luke Shaw has been defensively good this season. The things that I see from him on the pitch, he's going hard into tackles, he's winning the ball. He seems to have a certain sense of urgency as well. The way he's carrying himself on the pitch, he's fighting for balls, he's going hard into tackles. I don't see that from some of the other players that are in and around him on the pitch. And I understand what he's been in the past, but he's been available. He's been injury-free so far, which I think are all positives. And I think there's quite a big difference between Luke Shaw and Ugarte. Ugarte, I'm not seeing an impact. I'm not seeing a reason for him to make an argument that he deserves to stay here. Luke Shaw is on the older side. His wage is a bit high. Is there a resellability in him? And then also you need Luke Shaw to want to leave. I think with Ugarte, I think basically what I'm trying to say is if I look at Ugarte and I look at Luke Shaw, I think it's easier to move Ugarte on than it is to move Luke Shaw out. So same Glazers, sell Ugarte, Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, either winter or summer. Well, they're not gonna sell those guys in winter. Maybe Ugarte, if there's a chance, although I doubt it, because this is the whole issue that I have. What's going on with the club? And Lyle's here says, "Hey Eric and all you Reds, how you doing, buddy?" This is the whole issue I have with the whole sort of plan because it contradicts itself. So, they might want to sell Ugarte, but then they can't sell Ugarte because we need bodies in the midfield. We need depth, and for us to sell Ugarte, we're gonna have to go and get somebody in January so that we can let Ugarte go. They're saying the same thing for Kobe. We can't let Kobe go on loan because there's AFCON, and if we're gonna do anything, it's gonna be after AFCON when the players come back, which leaves about 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks in January, and then on top of that, not only is there AFCON, but also to let Kobe go on loan, we need to bring in somebody in January. Meanwhile, they're telling us, well, we can't get Warren, we can't get Anderson, we can't get Baleba, and we don't know if we're really going to be able to get anybody in January, so we might not be able to let them go out on loan. The whole thing is a contradiction in itself. It doesn't make sense. My thing is get your ass in gear and make things happen. That is your responsibility of this football club. You don't just get to say, well, it couldn't happen and we did nothing, because that's not acceptable. And I again, it bothers the shit out of me that my club would fall into the category of the only club that is going to say that when I look around the league. And I understand we have the Glazers, and I understand we're in a bad financial situation, but there are clubs that have never been in Europe. There are clubs that are at the bottom of the barrel of the league. They're still going to do transfer business. So there is no way that we do nothing. There is no way. There is no way. I want any Premier League midfielders like João Gomez. Why? João Gomez doesn't seem to be on the table anymore. His name has disappeared from all the updates. So, I don't know what they're going to do. But the main point is they got to do something. The main point is they got to do something. They can't not do anything. They got to do something. Listen, listen to Grace, Lucky. She has the power to mute you. Don't be spamming. Let me just continue on this Lori Willow update because this was massive. I couldn't go live yesterday. As I said, I wasn't feeling good. And I was gonna go. I wanted to go live when this sort of stuff broke, but I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling a bit sick, and there was no way that I wasn't in the state to be able to stand in front of the camera and give a coherent argument. I had no energy. I feel better today. I'm good, but I don't know what it was yesterday, but I woke up and I felt very weird. I felt not normal. I felt something was wrong. So, and I wasn't going to do the show today because there's Champions League and stuff like that, and it had already started. But, I felt like if I waited another day to talk about this, it's, sort of old news because, news moves fast around United. So I kind of wanted to come and just hit this real quick. But Laurie talked about Højlund to Napoli and Rashford to Barca, and he said the expectation is that one will go through. Napoli, they get Champions League and it's basically an obligation. I think we all know that. And, it should happen. We've made this decision. We need the money. We'll take the money. The money that's coming back from him is decently good in terms of, I think if you put in sort of the FFP aspect and, what we've paid and what we still owe, I think we sort of break even, which will help us anyway. So that needs to be done. Marcus Rashford, I think is quite clear. We don't know what's going to happen. Barca are weird. He even says this. He says Rashford is more uncertain. It's just an option. And Barcelona are a funny club to predict. It's not going to change what United can do in the market, but United have to rely on some good sales, but the finances are tight to a degree. And this is, again, is to my whole point and my whole argument. If that's the actual case, obviously, the clear and the best way to go about it is you have a month to do something to improve the squad, which then in turns, it may not guarantee it, but it gives us a better percentage, a better probability that we can actually have a good season and finish in a good spot, which will improve our chances in terms of we'll have better finances. We'll still have to rely on some sales, but we won't have to rely so heavily on sales. Everything that comes out about this, all I can think about, because I think it's an undisputable fact, is we have an opportunity to do something now about it. We have an opportunity to sort of cover our ass because we are getting cooked. Yeah? Financially, we're dealing with the repercussions of last season, finishing in 15th, not beating Spurs in the Europa League. We are dealing with the repercussions right now. We have an opportunity to give our ass a bit of cushion in terms of go do something in January substantial, help this squad out, help the manager out. Don't leave him hanging out to dry like we've done to every other manager that's ever been here, since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, because we've done it to all of them. And if we didn't do it to them in January, we did it to them in the summer. And if it wasn't either or, we did it to them in both. And this club cannot go anywhere if we continue to operate in this manner. So, nicotine hangover. Nah, I don't think it was the pouches, to be honest. I don't do too many, and I'm quite used to it. Actually, my body sometimes tells me, it's not enough, and I refrain from doing it because I don't want to go down that path. And I've had nicotine poisoning before because I used to smoke cigarettes, and when I tried to smoke cigarettes, I tried to do the patches before these pouches were a thing. I tried to do the nicotine patch. And I didn't know that the nicotine patch, and I think I went for the lowest level, but I put it on my arm, and that thing made me so sick, I never wanted to touch the nicotine patch again. It actually had the adverse effect. I put that thing on my arm, I was at work, and I thought I was going to die. Like, I felt like I wanted to throw up. I was like, I was like delirious. I was like, I can't stand. I was like, and I ripped the thing off my arm. I was like, this thing is making me sick. So I've had nicotine poisoning before, so I know what that feels like. It wasn't that. I think it was maybe something I ate or something like that, or something. So because 24 hours went by, I think it was fine. Elias says we won't get our main targets in January, though. I understand that, and I get that, and I've always said that. Listen, it's quite plausible we can't get the main targets when you put it into perspective, right? Baleba, listen, Baleba might be maybe the only one. The thing is, do you have 100 million, 120 million to spend? I don't know if we do. We might not have. I don't know if I can completely trust them when they tell us we don't, because again, the Glazers are still here, and there's question marks over Ineos and Sir Jim. He is a business guy. I can't necessarily trust him 100%. I will trust like Wilcox and stuff because they're football people. But Sir Jim, I don't trust some of the things he does. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of time and, show me through your actions what we're doing. The people you've hired that are football people, I want to see them do well. I like that they're here, but I need to see the process going correctly. I don't trust Sir Jim in the fact of that when he says he's a lifelong United fan. I think that was bullshit and a lie. I never trusted that. The first time I saw it, I was like, I don't believe you for a second. And I knew nothing about him. It was the first time I ever heard of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I didn't know about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But they came out with that statement, and I was like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I find that quite hard to believe. I've never heard of your name. I've never seen you at matches. Nobody talks about you as a United fan. There's some things about Sir Jim I don't really trust. I don't trust too many business people because business people, money is always number one motivation. But when I look at it, like, listen, if Brighton don't want to sell, there's only so much we could do. If Elliot Anderson doesn't want to move and Forest don't want to sell, there's only so much we can try to do in trying to force their hand. And ultimately, if they say no, they say no. And if they don't want to talk, they don't want to talk. There's only so far we could go with that. But my whole thing is, it's not really about the main targets. It's about having to do something in January. You can't give us nothing. You can't say that, you can't just sit there and say that, oh, we did nothing. And we didn't even give an opportunity to the manager in terms of, we gave him sort of a helping hand because our main targets aren't available in January. Like I just explained, the midfield, there is a big possibility for a large overhaul. You could do a lot of things with that. There is a lot of uncertainty going around in there. In my mind, if you want to get Baleba and Wharton, let's just say for argument's sake, or any of the two, combine them together. There's still an opportunity for me, in my opinion. We still need another guy. And if you're going to keep Maino, he's one of them, but that's 3. And if we get into Europe, we're going to need a bigger squad. We need more rotation. We need more depth. Even if you want to use Bruno there, you might still need somebody else. So there's no way you can't do one deal. 40 million, 45 million. There's no way that you're not looking at somebody else out there. Even if it's a loan and you get a quality loan done, maybe like a Conor Gallagher or something to that effect. There's no way you can't do anything. So I'm not asking them to spend 200 million in January because I don't think we can do it. I don't like that we can't do it. I think our football club should always be in a position to do it, but unfortunately we're not in that position, are we? And it's not going to change by us bitching and moaning about it. It is what it is at this point. But I will not accept them giving us nothing because I think they're ultimately, the way I feel about it is like, if you don't do something that gives us a chance to help us this season, what I picture is they're taking Ruben, putting him on a raft made out of sticks and twigs tied with some, leaves or some shit. And they're putting him out to sail into the ocean, and they're telling him good luck. And they're basically saying, yeah, we think you'll make it. We think you make it. We hope you make it. But, if you don't make it, sucks for you. Because we'll still be here. People might hate us more, but we'll still be here. We're not going anywhere. You'll lose your job. Most of the blame will get put on you anyway, because people will forget. And then people will get caught up in the cycle of, fuck Ruben, he's sacked, and then they'll bring us somebody new, and everybody will be like, oh, look at the new shiny toy we have at our football club. Chelsea spend $3 billion. Well, but Chelsea is a very different situation. I mean, they got a new owner. They don't have Glazers. They don't have two owners like we do. Chelsea haven't done financial mistakes like we've done in the past 12 years, where we've overpaid for players on purpose, in my opinion. I think a combination of on purpose and foolishness. So yeah, they can spend $3 billion. We could probably spend $3 billion too if we didn't have our owners that did what they did, and we don't have the current situation that we have now. And we had somebody come into the football club that actually wants to make us great again, and actually wants to sink money into the club instead of trying to make money out of the club. There is an aspect of this that I haven't talked about too much because I think it's too far away and we don't know what's going to come out of it. But there is an aspect of this that, it's not really a coincidence. Listen, we need a new stadium, but I think part of the pitch that Sir Jim did to the Glazers when he made the deal with them is that I think he pitched to them that he was going to get them a new stadium built. And we all know that the Glazers don't give a fuck about this football club in any sort of way. It's always been about money. And that piece of land, listen, land is the most, next to gold, it's probably the most valuable, gold and diamonds. It's the most valuable commodity on the planet. There's only a certain amount of it. We have land that they've been sitting on. When you build a new stadium, they stand to make a shit ton of money. Why? Because they're not only going to use it for Manchester United, they're going to hold concerts there. They're going to hold other events. And it is good and bad because United can use that money. And for us, we have pure hearts. We would be like, yes, we will take that. It is a modernization. We will take it because we can use the money to help Manchester United be a better football club and actually get back to the top and competing. But when you have those people there is always a high chance that it's solely for them in their pockets. And the club's going to get the short end of the stick. So it is a bit unfortunate in that. We need to keep one eye on that. We need to keep one eye on that for sure. Because it's in the background. They talk about it when they want to, and then it disappears and nobody thinks about it. Because it's not a pressing thing. It's 5 years down the line. And, we only hear about it, and it's only talked about when they give us the updates. But there is a sinister aspect to that. And obviously, with the people that own us, we can't trust them to do good with it. It's only probably always skewing towards greedy evilness. So I think Ineos can easily go in for Gomez or Gallagher in January. However, we might be stuck with these players come in the summer. Goes against the Ineos strategy. I think they can. I think, listen, even to the extent, and now, listen, it's not my job to sort of know every angle that Manchester United can go. I am a fan. I don't work at the football club. I don't have the level of, network and resources available to them. They're running a giant, massive football club. There are scouts. There are all types of people. There is analysis. They got computers that have the data and stuff like that. I don't have access to these things. To me, there's got to be more options that's not being talked about for whatever reason. It can't just be João Gomez and just Conor Gallagher. There's got to be players out there. Even other than the ones that are our main target, there's got to be other players out there that you can do a deal for. I liken it to the fact of sort of Sonny Lemons. And this is my whole total argument. Before we were linked to Sonny Lemons, Some people knew about him. I didn't know about him. I think many people didn't know about him. And nobody was really, when we were talking about the goalkeeper, let's put it this way. When we were talking about the goalkeeper and we were talking about we needed a new goalkeeper, there wasn't, I didn't see one Manchester United fan suggest Sonny Lemons. There wasn't one. He's been good since he's come in. He's of decent age. He's being useful. And we paid not a lot of money. We didn't have to break the bank. I don't see how there isn't a player out there like that in some sort of sense that we can go and get for the midfield. That can be part of the longer term project. That can have some sort of impact maybe for us in the midfield as well. That's not going to derail the summer. It's not going to make it like, oh, we bought this guy, so now we can't go and get Baleba because we bought him. There has to be something out there. It's just that we are being fed this sort of list. But realistically, as a football club, the list should be never ending because there are so many players out there. There are so many players out there. And there's got to be some that fit the bill. So for me, I don't have the numbers on it, but common sense wise, off the top of my head, probability and statistically wise, there's got to be something out there. There's got to be something out there, and maybe something pops up. To their point, maybe something that isn't really available right now. Maybe something pops up, but then at the end of the day, they got to go get it done. They got to make it happen. My whole thing is they got to make something happen. It is their duty. It is their responsibility as owners and runners of this football club and people that are in charge. It is their responsibility to make something happen for this football club to give us the best possible chance. If you are going to be good owners, if you are going to be serious about your project, you can't just look at the future and only focus on the future. You need to help along the path to the future. You need to help us along. And January is an opportunity to do so. And it will piss me immensely off if we do nothing and I'm looking at teams like West Ham or people that are totally below us and they're doing decently good deals. I might be mistaken, but when did West Ham sign Kudus? Was it in January? Because there always seems to be, like, United don't go for a player, but some other team like Spurs or Bournemouth or West Ham go and get a player that's not talked about for us, not on our radar, but it's a good deal. They get him for a good price. They're a good talent. Do something. If it's not the midfield, get something else. But something has to move. Something's got to budge. You can't get us nothing, because I sort of look back to it as well, and we sort of glaze over this, and we sort of, don't really hammer down on this point. But, sitting in hindsight, sitting here and thinking back to it, when Ruben came in, and it was quite abundantly clear that this is quite different, the players are going to struggle, and we all said, I remember everybody said, we need players in January. The players we have, they don't fit his system. We need players. What did they do? They signed Dorgu. They did nothing else because they said that we couldn't do anything else. And half of us were like, well, at least they got him a left wing back. It's better than nothing. But when you look back at it, was it good enough? It wasn't good enough. Because if we did something a little bit more, maybe we would have won the Europa League. Maybe we wouldn't have necessarily finished in 15th. Maybe we could have finished higher. We'll never know, because we didn't go down that route. And maybe it wouldn't have changed nothing. But the way I look at it is the opportunity was robbed. The opportunity was robbed. To know what it would have been was robbed, because we didn't have the chance to explore it. We didn't do it. Good point. We could also explore loan options too. Jan doesn't have to be permanent transfers. They should be looking at everything. And I just find it hard to believe because it's not plausible. The only reason why nothing will happen is because they go down the path of saying what's basically coming out, in that our long-term targets are available in the summer and it's easier for us to do them there, and so that we're not going to really do any business in January because it's not part of our plan. And it's like, hello, add to your plan. You have to add to the plan. That plan that you're presenting to us is not good enough to me. It's not a good plan. I agree that we shouldn't be making... Listen, there is a line that you have to try and hit. There is a balance. Right now, I feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to balance everything towards the summer. Everything is very unbalanced. It's not balanced. It's not balanced. Trying to go just for the summer and say our long-term targets are the summer and do nothing in January, that's not balanced. But then you also can't go into the market and you can't panic necessarily in January and say, fuck it, and blow all of the transfer budget or put next summer's budget in a very bad position in that it totally derails for the summer. There's got to be a balance. And if you're doing proper planning and you're operating correctly, you should be able to get somewhere near that balance. You might not be dead on to the balance, but you got to be somewhere near it. You can't just be one way this way, one way that way, and say, oh, well, what do you want us to do about it? Because people that are actually going to be successful and people that are actually going to run the football club in the right way, they will get close to that balance. We overhauled our data department. Well, to me, the whole thing was like, that Sonny Lemon story made me very happy. Because how many times did we hear in the past when there were scouts and they were begging the people in charge, buy this player, look at this player, and they ignore them for whatever reason. And they decide to go do whatever they were doing, because I don't even know how that was working. And, when Wilcox is saying that, we had this scout and he's been banging on about him for a year, and I actually listened to him, it made me happy, because I was like, look, we actually did something like that we're supposed to be doing that's proper, and it seems that it's actually fucking paid off for us. Whereas in before, we were doing the opposite, and quite rightly, we got screwed for it, So, like, we redid the data department. We supposedly reshuffled, like, how, the scouting and how the reports come in and how you're looking at it. So there's no way that there's not somebody out there that we can't get that can be part of this. Because even so far, they want to talk about the future. As I've said this before, over the next 2-3 to infinity seasons, Manchester United are going to have to keep buying players and replacing players. Not every player we buy is going to work. And at some point, not every player is going to continue to be good enough. If you want to be the best, it's a system. You use, some players might be good enough for that time, but at some point, they may not be good enough anymore. And then they go, and you get other people that can take you up another level. It's a constant moving, and every other team does this. So to me, it's just like, there's no way, because I look at that midfield and I say, look, think about it over the next couple of years. Even if you get the two main guys and you have Kobe, we still need to do something there. 3 midfielders is going to be okay. Wharton, Baleba, and Maino. 3 midfielders going forward. We're in Champions League or we're in Europa League. We're playing FA Cup. We're playing Carabao Cup. And we're playing in the Premier League. 3 midfielders is going to be enough. It's not enough. So what's wrong with getting somebody that might not necessarily be the starter or might not be the top star? What's wrong with getting them that fits the longer term vision of the club? Because I think you could do both. They could tell me Wharton and Anderson are 2 long-term targets that are here for the next 6 years. That's fine. But in reality, you still need another one of those guys at some sort of level. Maybe not a direct starter, but somebody's got to come in. And if it's not a 21-year-old or a 22 or a 23-year-old, then maybe like a 28-year-old or something that can give us a few years that might be okay with being, a squad player that can give us something. Grace says Gomez or Edison for the price is the best deal than Baleba in the summer, and it's easy because there's no World Cup for him. And this is what I'm saying, But United have to, the people in charge of a football club have to decide to want to do that. It's quite similar to sort of like Ruben Amorim. If they don't agree with you, Grace, if they don't agree with that, if they don't think that that's the proper way, they're not going to do it. You know what I mean? They're not going to do it. They're going to say, no, that doesn't fit our plans. That's not the right way. That doesn't work. And they're not going to do it. But then it boils down to, well, are you right or wrong about that? You know what I mean? And I think most fans, and I say most because, there's always some momos out there, and they're everywhere in all aspects of life. Not to disparage the United fan base, but there's some people that will agree with them, but I think most people will be like, no, like you definitely should have went and done this. We could have used it then. It definitely could have helped us. It doesn't take a rocket scientist that you can see somebody like the level of Ederson or Gomez quite clearly will give us a positive impact compared to what we have now. And we can continue to use them afterwards. Because at the end of the day, somebody's got to be a starter and somebody's got to be the squad player. This is just the nature of football. Everybody can't be the starter. So, if you see Wharton as a starter or Baleba as a starter, great. He'll be the starter and you give him the opportunities. But then it's about managing the squad after and having a balance in terms of, well, you might want him to be the starter, but if he's playing like shit, you got to give the other guy an opportunity. And if he takes the opportunity, he's playing good, well, then he's the starter until it flips around. And if it doesn't flip around, then you have a bigger problem. And then you have to sort that issue out. Rodrigo back in the Madrid squad to score. Real Madrid 1, Manchester City nothing. Spurs signed Kudus in July. All right. I thought, no, but they signed him in July, but West Ham. Because West Ham signed him first, and then he went to Spurs. So I'm pretty sure, if my mind is remembering things correctly, because sometimes it doesn't, I'm pretty sure West Ham signed Kudus in January. Yeah? And look how good that was for them. In terms of, he was a good player, he fit them, he wasn't expensive. And, at that time, we probably could have used him as well because we had the likes of Anthony not there. We got rid of Rashford, and we were relying on Garnacho, who clearly the manager didn't really favor too much, gave him an opportunity, but he didn't like the selfishness, and ultimately he kicked him out of the football club. So we support English squads in UCL to secure that 5th spot. I mean, I get it. The only thing is we don't know if it'll actually benefit us. You know what I mean? Because we still have to get to the 5th spot, for it to be worth it, Lyle. Otherwise, we're rooting for some other team to ultimately get in there. And then it's like, well, sort of beat the whole point in supporting our rivals and shit just to sort of help us out. And we don't help ourselves out. So, I mean, technically, yes, if they do a good job, they'll at least present us the opportunity for a chance for 5th. And like I just explained with the transfers, I'd rather have the opportunity there to get to 5th than not have it there. So for the time being, I guess, yeah, hopefully they do well enough until that sort of gets secured, and then all of them can lose after that. That's usually how I go about it, Do decently well enough so you can, help England out, and in terms we're in England, so help us out to try and get a spot in there. And then once we sort of secure that, they can all F off, and I hope all of them lose, and I hope none of them even come close. I don't even want any of them near the final, for sure. I hope they all go out, by the semifinal, quarterfinal, whatever it is. I don't really care. And then if it ultimately comes down to them getting into the final, or them, like if they get into the final, they give us a 5th place spot, I'd rather just not have the 5th place spot. I don't want them anywhere near the opportunity to win it. I don't want any of them near it. Alternative grades, LOL top 4 is so tough. I'd rather take one season of Europa League than have them get anywhere near the final and giving us top 5 if that was the case. Remember though, we spent over 200 million, and who did we really sell apart from Garnacho and no UCL football either? I think fans would be quiet if we bought a midfielder over Cunha. Well, but this is what I'm saying. This is the plan that they did, and this is the plan that they went. Even so far as you can argue, you can make a couple arguments, Grace. You can say buying a midfielder over Cunha. You can say selling Bruno Fernandes, taking the 100 million and not playing him in fucking center midfield because nobody wanted him. Nobody wants him to play center midfield. Some people will keep Bruno and play him as 10. Some people don't like Bruno and they would just sell him outright regardless. But I think there's a couple different things that you can look at and say, well, you guys made these decisions. And quite clearly, in a certain sense, you got it a bit wrong. And now in January, you have an opportunity that you've left a gap in the middle of the field. Whether it was you shouldn't have signed Cunha and you should have signed a midfielder. Whether it was you should have tried to force Bruno out and get 100 million. And you could have bought Baleba right then and there with the sale of Bruno. And think, maybe we could have Baleba and Kobe Mainu right now. Casemiro could be a backup. Maybe we would have sold Ugarte. I don't know. Because it's too many sort of defensive midfielders at that point. But they could have done it a couple different ways. They didn't. They've left a hole in the midfield. So now it is their job to rectify that. And they have an opportunity in January to do it at some level. Gomez, Ugarte, Baleba, Mainu, and Kone next season. If we get UCL, Ugarte, Baleba, Mainu, and Kone next season without UCL. Yeah, I mean, they could do something like that. I mean, listen, there is something that you can do. And, ultimately, it might not be the ultimate fantasy because I think many people are sort of in the camp, and I think maybe they're sort of being led down because of the wording of the reporting that United are going to get Baleba and Anderson, or Anderson and Warden, or Baleba and Warden, And that's sort of the ultimate fantasy. I mean, if we do that, that's insane and crazy and amazing, and I'll love it. But I don't know how realistic that is. What's realistic is we definitely need 2 midfielders. But if you're gonna, but realistic in terms of you're gonna get 2 top players like that are gonna cost you 180 million each, and then trying to keep the likes of Bruno. I don't see how that works too well. So, Real Madrid, Manchester City 1-1. Come on, City, says Grace. Words you will never hear us say on any other day. Lucky says 6th aim, which is fine. I see here Manchester City have just scored a second, so it's 2-1 City. So, Grace says West Ham signed him in August 2023. All right, well then I'm imagining things. Eric, any European football, fine, help at financial aspect. I mean, to a certain extent, but I tell you what, I'm just being real. I don't want to see us in the Conference League. I don't. I mean, the Conference League is shit. I put the Conference League almost to the same level as not being in Europe. I mean, it's. I don't want to be in there. I do, because I don't really want to be in Europa League. But for the circumstances we find ourselves in, I will take Europa League so that we can, at least be in Europe, and then we'll try to take the next step and go into Champions League the next season, because that's more plausible. To go from here, from no Europe to Champions League is quite a big step. I would love for them to do it. It's very difficult, I think. And maybe it's not ultimately realistic, but, I would hope for them to do it. And if they can do it, I'll be over the moon. But if it's not Champions League, to me, it's Europa League. And if it's not Europa League, then it's just, it's just shit. Pen check happening for Manchester City. Well, thank you, because I'm getting the updates on my phone. Pen awarded. 6 is the aim, which is fine. I think we're only going to get 1 Premier League midfielder, 1 outside. Conference League watch along will be fire. I won't even do them. I won't even do them. I can't, dude. I can't. Imagine doing a Conference League. You don't even know the teams. You don't even know where they're from. Listen, we have knowledge from playing FIFA or EAFC as they call it now, Football Manager, any other football game. And just being football fans in general, we have extensive knowledge in terms of, you go to the average person, they can't tell you what some countries' flags are. They don't know the names of countries. They never heard of these countries. They don't know where they are on a map. We have extensive knowledge in that hand, And I look at the teams in the Conference League, and I have no clue where they're from, what league they play in. Absolutely no clue. I was watching when Chelsea was in it, and last year, and I'm looking at their opponents. I'm like, I've never heard of that team. I don't know what country they play in or what country they're from. I had to fucking look it up, and I'm like, they're dominating. I was like, they're gonna win, but I was like, it's shit. Because I'm going to set myself on fire watching United struggle against the team from Azerbaijan. I'll add to that. I'll set myself on fire and jump off a bridge. Watching United struggle to some team from the Icelandic division that nobody's ever heard of. United versus Valletta, do it. Well, listen, if United play Valletta, I'll obviously do it because that's a personal thing. You know what I mean? I think we have. I don't think it's Valletta though. I believe it's Hamrun. They're called Hamrun Spartans. I believe they're in Europe, which is the first time that we've gotten a team actually into Europe. So I don't know how they're doing though, but we did get in there finally. First time ever in history. So we are taking steps there. Maybe one day. Actually, no. Why would I want that? I would never want to see a Maltese team play against Manchester United because that just means, it means one of two things. Either the Maltese team has gone leaps and bounds up and is doing amazing, which, I mean, that won't happen for another 300 years at best, if it ever happens. Or that means that United is so shit that they've gone down to that level, which I obviously don't want. So. Our level is Conference League. No. Our level should be at best, at minimum, should always be Europa League. We should never be in a place where we go lower than Europa League, because in the grand scheme of things for Manchester United, Europa League is not even good enough, and ultimately it's Champions League. But again, we need to take steps, and we were in the Europa. Listen, we were in the Europa League last season. We went to the final of the Europa League. Spurs went to the final of the Europa League. The English teams dominated the Europa League. Conference League is for championship clubs. I think a championship club, you can take them and stick them into the Conference League. I think they would do quite well. The Conference League should never be our level. I don't care how bad we are. It should never be our level. We ultimately, Europa League, for me, it's Europa League or higher, of course, or Boston failure. Now, they might take it as a W because they'll still get a bit of European money for their Conference League, but no. No way. I can't even... Lyle did that on purpose because he knows I can't... I can't even pronounce that. Brio Blick versus Manchester United. What is that? What is that? Where is that from? Where did they play? I have no clue. Never heard of them. I guess people would say the same thing about the Maltese teams because it's a small island, but bro, never heard of them. Don't know where they're from. They could be literally anywhere in the world. They could be from Antarctica for all I know. I have no clue. Manchester United versus Jagalonia. What? Yeah, see, Ray says Hamrun FC versus Manchester United. See, he knows. He knows. Hamrun. Now, to you guys, you're probably like, and everybody else, that isn't Maltese. Everybody's like, the fuck is a Hamrun? They've never heard of it. But it's the same equivalent. That's how I know that it's shit. Because, listen, I love my people. And I love my sort of my second country and my second home. But, I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you, yeah, we're so great. I'm realist about things. I'm realistic. I know where we are. I know where we are. And I wish them nothing but the best. And I wish and I hope that they get better and that they become better and they improve over time. But I'm not, I don't deal in deliriousness. I don't deal in fantasy land. Mate, we can't handle Champions League pressure. Well, listen, we might not be able to. We might not be able to, and you might be absolutely right about that. I would still like to see us there. I would still rather us be in the Champions League and not handle it than watching us play Conference League and then potentially be embarrassed. But you would like to think that we would dominate Conference League. Amroom had the first win. That's good for them. Good for them. Yeah, I wasn't even keeping up with that. So, United versus Sheriff. Well, see, I can't pronounce their name, but I know them because they were in the Champions League at one point. So I know about them. Dulange, like, is that even real? Are you guys just making up names right now? Like, is that even a real team, or is that just fake? Lucky says he wants to play an Iceland team and a Cyprus team. Why would you want that? You watching the UCL? No, I'm about to get off and watch it because we've gone on long enough. United versus Meta Logo Bus. You know what? I might create a separate channel at one point. It won't be one that we do all the time, but maybe for certain aspects, like if there's a big match, I sort of do like hate alongs or watch alongs specifically on that channel. I can't do them here. It doesn't feel right for me to do them here because this is a United channel and United's not in the Champions League. And if I was to set up a watch along right now for Real Madrid versus Manchester City, it seems kind of stupid to do it on a United channel because what's it got to do with us? But if I make one that's a bit more general, which I could do, it doesn't have to be big or anything, but it'd just be a space that we could actually stay live and do these sorts of things instead of talking about United. So I might do it maybe in the next couple weeks. I'll think of a name, I'll set it up, and then I'll link that channel to this channel and this channel to that channel, and maybe it'll help with growing. It'll be sort of, we'll hit a different aspect. Maybe we'll get a different reach as well. I could always do that. I don't have a problem with that. Because like today is like I'll watch it, but you know what? Like I do a watch along for it, but I don't have the channel for it. So let's make up teams, dude. I just googled the UECL and all these team names are on there. Yeah. Rather play lesser opposition. Cyprus, Iceland, new teams coming. United versus SK Sigma, Olomouc. Denmark has good teams, my friend. No, I mean, dude, look at the teams that they're naming. I've never heard of these guys. United versus KUPS, Cops. United versus KF Shengdaya. That's an Asian team. It's got to be, no? Universitatea Croavia versus Manchester United. United versus DFS. Dude, what, like, oh my god. You guys are giving me like a panic attack. I'm getting anxiety from this. I am. Imagine we have to deal with this. I can't deal with this. I wouldn't be able to deal with this. It was quite embarrassing for Chelsea. I mean, in my opinion. You know, we were in Europa League. I'm like, all right, we're playing Bilbao. Then you get to Thursday, and it's like, oh yeah, there's Conference League or whatever, or Friday, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot Chelsea was in that. And you look at Chelsea, and they're playing FC XYZ WQRSTUV, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then, you know, because it's football, you know, I'm pretty sure they like drew a match one time or something. It's like, well, that's fucking embarrassing. United versus Tesco. I know what Tesco is. I'm quite familiar with Tesco. United versus ASDA. Just see the UCL table, funny shit. Dude, I know, because I remember looking at it last year. Like, I mean, this year, I mean, obviously there'll be different teams and maybe some of the same teams. But I just remember off the top of my head, like I remember looking at it last year because it was like, I was looking at Chelsea and I'm like, I was like, who's even in this competition? Because I never paid the competition any mind because I don't want to care about it. And I looked at it and I'm just like, there's like one team out of like 30 that I may have heard of before. Like, dude, like United versus Little. I know what Little is too. We got them over here, Grace, and we have it in Malta as well. I know what Little is. I've known for a while what Little is. I love Little, actually. You know, when I was younger, I used to think it was a Maltese thing. I didn't know that it was it's German, right? I didn't know it was like sort of a European thing. I thought it was a Maltese thing. So I used to be like, Little is the best because it's Maltese. And I was like, they should have Little in America. And then they bring Little to America a few years ago. So, and now there's fucking Littles all over the place here. Which is good because Little has some things that you can't find here over in America. They have some food that I like it from Little. And they have some quality products. DFS is a furniture store. See, that I didn't know. You got me on that one. I had no clue about that one. Japanese teams do well, small competition. This will be your play light sides. Well, maybe, listen, Lucky, you know what? I'll give you the benefit of that. Maybe you're right. But in a selfish, sort of personal way, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be a part of it. But you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the step we need to take, and we need to take one step at a time. Maybe you're right. Maybe it'll be okay, and maybe we'll benefit from it, and you know. But no, personally for me, I don't really want that to happen. I think we can definitely get into Europa League. I think we should be able to play in the Europa League. You know, we had the team that went to the final last season. If we go back into Europa League, I mean, we bought new players, we improved our attack, and then we're obviously going to do another summer. We should be able to handle Europa League quite easily. There should be no need for Conference League at all. United versus Tiramisu United FC. Manchester United rules the league if they want competition. Search for supportive people, says Moment Lapse. Yeah. But let me just see. Yeah, so the final thing that I kind of got carried away a bit from here, but I'll just sort of do a little bit of a roundup. And then we'll end the show. Is that, Laurie Whitwell did say this about Mainu yesterday, and he said, the possibility of him going out on loan. He said, I get the sense that nothing will be decided until after AFCON, which, he's not the only one to report this. He also said United will see how that goes, even if he might want to start earlier, getting more minutes regularly. It's ultimately the club's call. I would anticipate that the picture becoming more clear later in January, after mid-January onwards. Napoli had interest in him last summer, and a sense abroad is where he'd like to go, even if we were to get a move away on loan. And this is sort of what I talked about before, in that, I don't really agree with this. My whole standpoint has always been, it's one thing if he's not a starter. It's one thing if you make him fight for his place. It's one thing if he's not the main guy right now. But there needs to be a proper plan, a pathway, an idea of what you're doing with this club. If the manager doesn't favor him right now, if the manager, you speak to the manager and the manager says, I can't give him more than 20 minutes, or I'm unwilling to give him more than 20, 25 minutes, I don't really see where I can start him. Then the club needs to, put on their big boy pants, to put it lightly, and they need to say, okay, well, we're not interested in selling him. We believe he's part of the future of this club, which I think they have quite clearly stated that, because if he wasn't, I think they'd sell him, they'd take the money, and I think they would have done it in the summer. I don't think he really wants to leave yet right now. I don't think he's made that decision in terms of, I don't want to be here permanently anymore. So they need to put on their big boy pants and say, well, we need him to develop. He needs game time. And if we consider him part of the future of this football club, and, then we need to loan him out, and we can't keep him here. So, they got to do the proper things. I think football is always, listen, it's sort of a savage place. It can be very rewarding. It can be very hard. Good and bad things happen. And right now, for Kobe, it's not a good thing that's going on. I still believe that things can change. They always massively change. Just because one year is shit doesn't mean that next year can't be better for him, and that circumstances can't change, and things can be different. There's always a possibility of that. But I think the football club cannot... The football club cannot have a plan in that they use him as a body, they use him as a number, they stunt his development, and then there's no actual sort of plan to use him on a consistent basis, so that at least he's not starting, but he might be getting valuable time where he can still develop and grow. You can't... it's like they want to try and eat their cake, have their cake and eat it too, and you can't. You can't. There's a balance. That's not balanced. That's being greedy. It's being selfish. That's having your cake and eat it too. That's not balanced. It's not. So they need to sort their shit out in that aspect. Talking about stores, Walmart's opened their first 2 stores in South Africa, and where I'm located, I am slap bam in between both of them. Really? I always wondered that, because I know, it's obviously huge in America. Walmart is literally all over the place, and it's there. And I never knew if they had any places in Africa, South Africa, or Europe. I never really heard of them doing so, but yeah, it's interesting that Walmart is over there, and I assume they're probably trying to get into other places if they're not in other places already. So, as a Walmart's good. I mean, you could find some very good cheap stuff there, and some of it's quality, some of it's not so quality. But I mean, it's large. They got literally everything in there, everything: clothes, electronics, things for your lawn. Fuck it, it's massive. They're massive. Which food shop is UCL, and which is Europa League, and which is Conference League? Well, I mean, you tell me, because you got a couple. I've never been to them in terms of Tesco. I've never been to Tesco. I know about Tesco. Aldi, I know about Aldi, but I've never been to Aldi. I've heard about these things. I've never been to them, so I can't really tell you. But I feel like, at the very least, if I'm on the right course here, I believe Tesco's probably the worst. I think Tesco would probably be Conference League, and I would say at least maybe Aldi would be Europa League, I think. United is league 7th best, my team opinion. First Arsenal, then Chelsea, Crystal Palace. Eric, we should get a midfielder from West Ham this summer. From West Ham? James Ward-Prowse. Listen, James Ward-Prowse looks good. I mean, Bowen looked quite good against us. You hope West Ham lose on the weekend. They got Aston Villa. Well, we need to play Villa shortly after anyway. Massmart owns 2 of our biggest stores, and they decided to close the one and turned it online and slowly introducing Walmart. Interesting. Interesting current events going on in the world here. All right, quick roundup, updates, and then we're getting out of here, I promise. So I'm going to speed run through these, get in any final thoughts, comments, responses that you want me to address before we get out of here. So speed round, here we go. One of the updates, Laurie Whitwell, 12 hours ago. JJ Gabriel has trained with Ruben Amorim's first-team squad, holding his own due to his tight control and two-footedness, and Captain Bruno Fernandes has been especially welcoming, calling Gabriel by his name and chatting to him. They also then came with another update saying JJ Gabriel is regarded as the best player in the country to be born in 2010 and has earned comparisons to Phil Foden, ew, don't ever do that, of Manchester City and England with the way he takes the ball on the turn. Gabriel himself grew up with a fondness of Neymar. I could see that in his game, I'm going to be quite honest. And he certainly carries a particular grace, no pun intended, but grace, on the pitch, reminiscent of the Brazilian when he broke through. I'm going to tell you what, he does look like he's modeled a bit of his game after Neymar. He has quite good dribbling from what I can see. He likes a bit of trickery as well, and he does make them come off. So as long as he doesn't have the fitness of Neymar and he's not made of paper mache, I think we'll be all right then. Because Neymar is literally made of paper mache. So we absolutely do not wish for JJ Gabriel to have any sort of, not even remotely close, of a fitness record that Neymar has had. So hopefully he's way above that. Simon Stone saying club sources are predicting a quiet window. This was 9 hours ago in January, which may be the case, but it will be shaped by what happens at AFCON. The last 2 weeks before the deadline shuts could turn out to be quite busy. Again, I don't buy this from our football club. I think it's totally wrong. I think it's the wrong way to go about it. You know, why will it be shaped by what happens at AFCON? We need help regardless of AFCON. You know, I don't really understand what this aspect of AFCON is. I think he's trying to elude the fact of that, like, if we're going to let Kobe go out on loan, it's not going to happen till after AFCON's over, and then we have to see if we can make that happen. And if we let Kobe, if we're going to let Kobe go out on loan, we're going to have to get somebody else in. So it's all going to happen after AFCON, which, again, it sounds very bad. I would hope that the club isn't just going to fucking sit there and wait to try and make something happen the third week of January, and just say the 2 weeks, well, there's nothing we could do. Because really, these updates are coming across as you're throwing away the first 2 weeks of January. So not only is January already short and difficult to do because it's only a month and it's about 4 weeks, but now we're also somehow cutting our own time in half because, to me, it's like, just figure it out. There's got to be a plan, and you got to say, I got to go for it. There's, I don't really understand this whole, if, but maybe, this uncertainty that we seem to have. Where is the sort of clear, like, okay, these are the possibilities that happen. These are the routes of actions we need to take, and we need to take them. And we got to go. We got to go. Like, there's got to be some sort of of urgency. Doesn't need to be panic, but there's got to be some sort of urgency in terms of, like, we need to make moves. We need to go. We need to make things happen. We can't just be fucking sitting around waiting for shit to happen to then decide what we're going to do. Now, we got this update earlier today. Simon Stone following up on this, saying Kobe Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee are the most obvious players who will leave the club, either on loan or permanently. And I think he threw that in there to be a bit hyperbolic in terms of that. I think Zirkzee is definitely in the camp of that. It can be a loan, but it can be permanent. From all the other reports, unless Simon Stone has something new to break, but I think he and this is what I'm talking about, the wording. See, when people read this, it throws people into a frenzy because people will read this, and some people out there cannot decipher the difference. Some people are missing information prior. Some people, they will read this, and when he writes it when it is reported in the way that it says Mainu and Zirkzee are the most obvious players who will leave the club, and then goes on to say either on loan or permanently, people look at that and say the club are looking to permanently sell Joshua Zirkzee and Kobbie Mainoo, when there has been no actual report or indication that Kobbie Mainoo is up for sale and the club are looking for it. That has never been reported. That has never been told us that is the club's stance. And this is what I'm talking about. And so people will read this and people will see this, and it's going to get people more pissed because they're already pissed about Kobbie's situation. They're pissed about Ruben's use of Kobbie Mainoo. And now they're going to be thinking that Kobbie has a big chance to leave permanently, when it's not true at this moment as it stands, because that's not what's actually being reported. And then he goes on to say, either on loan or permanently before the transfer deadline day. If either did, the chances are replacements would be needed. So again, we need to buy King Eric Cantona. I don't think we need to buy him. We got to pay him. Then 4 hours ago from Sky, we had this update saying Joshua Zirkzee wants to stay at Manchester United and fight for his place. That's coming from Sky Kava. And then Alex Crook also speaking on Kobbie Mainoo, if he could leave in January, says, I think it's still wide open. Clearly he feels that Amorim doesn't have faith in him, which I can understand. And he said, I think it's hard to see him forcing his way into a regular starting position, which I could also understand at this moment in time. Because I don't see Amorim changing his mind on Mainoo. Something has clearly gone on behind the scenes. That I don't know, but I don't think they'll want to loan him out to another Premier League side. So I think his only hope is a loan move to Europe. Napoli were keen before. There's been talk at Juventus as well. I would probably say at this moment in time, it's more likely that he stays. My whole thing on this again is, until somebody answers me the reason as to, listen, if Ruben has a problem with him, I would say Ruben would not be playing him at all. And sometimes he doesn't play him, but sometimes he does. So I don't... Again, when they say things like this, I think they're trying to paint a picture that they don't fucking know anything about. People listen to Alex Crook, and he says, something has clearly gone on behind the scenes. You don't know that. If you knew that, you would tell us what has gone on. You wouldn't say something has gone on. So you don't fucking know that. You're making an observation by what's going on, but you don't know what's gone on. Something could have gone on, or it could be as simple as he just prefers to play Bruno and Casemiro and doesn't rate Kobbie Mainoo in this moment. Doesn't mean Kobbie could be unhappy about that. I expect him to be unhappy about that. Doesn't mean that there's some sort of major bust-up. It could be as simple as the manager just doesn't rate him as highly as he rates other players. Has something gone on? Does that mean that Kobbie told him to go fuck himself and Amorim said fuck you back? No, but when they say things like this, that's what they allude to, and I think it's bullshit to do that because they have a voice and a platform and they're making the situation worse. I don't agree with it. To me, somebody still has to answer me the question as to if Ruben doesn't want him, why does he still kind of choose to play him over Ugarte? And then also, why are the club not looking to sell him? Because Ruben didn't want Rashford. We got rid of him. Well, kind of, but he'll never play for Manchester United again. He's gone. And when Ruben made the determination at the end of last season that he didn't want Garnacho, and the rest of them agreed, and they sold him, they got rid of him. So if Ruben doesn't want Kobbie, Why is the club not selling him? Because the club needs money. The club could use the money, and he's pure profit. So until somebody can give me the answer as to why, well, if the manager doesn't want him, something's gone on here, and he's, if that's the case, what's the point in loaning Kobe? Are they hoping that some sort of rectification will go on between the manager and Kobe, and that they'll be best buds later on if something's happened? Because if something's happened and the relationship has deteriorated and broke down, then how does that fix itself? Because it never fixes itself, and it's not going to fix itself, is it? So what's the point of keeping Kobe here? What's the point of selling? What's the point of loaning Kobe out? What is the point of loaning him out if he has no future? If Ruben doesn't rate him, if Ruben's not going to use him, if Ruben hates him and he hates Ruben, what's the point of keeping him here? What's the point of keeping him on loan? Just sell him. So for me, I don't buy this narrative that they're trying to, because, listen, I think people try to make a meal of anything about Manchester United. I think Kobe Mainoo is a highly publicized figure, and I think there are a lot of people out there that they don't want us to have Kobe Mainoo. They know what Kobe Mainoo can be. They don't want us to have him. They want to see Kobe Mainoo leave this football club so we don't have them. They want Kobe Mainoo to go somewhere so they can say, ha ha, look at United, fuck them, they suck. And I think too many people are buying into this shit. I do. Because until something actually happens, that's when I'll bite. But other than that, these guys, Alex Crook and all these other fucking journalists that are trying to force a narrative, because in my opinion, they're trying to force a narrative. They don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody's been told. Nobody's been told that Kobe hates Ruben and Ruben hates Kobe. It's all based off of people perceiving the situation. But nobody knows 100%. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody has been told that there's been some major bust up. It's not fucking Mourinho and Pogba 2.0. We had the audio of it. There was a video of it. Mourinho made some quite disparaging public remarks about it and made it quite more clear. Nobody knows. And I think what they're trying to do is they see an issue at United and they're trying to stick the knife in the wound. Yeah? I think they're trying to make it bleed more. I think they're trying to fucking make it worse than it actually is. Because what I think they're trying to do is they're trying to make the narrative much more explosive, much more toxic to a point where it explodes. And Kobe doesn't maybe want to leave right now, but it gets so bad that the whole situation blows up into some gigantic fucking thing that it doesn't need to be. And then eventually he'll leave our football club. Everybody that hates us will get what they want because we'll lose a top talent and he'll go somewhere else. And then they'll get double of what they want because they'll be like, look what they did to Kobe. Look what he's doing at this team. United suck and United are shit. Haha, fuck you. And I'm telling you this because regardless of what you think about Mason Greenwood, right? Mason Greenwood scored 2 goals yesterday playing in the Champions League. Okay? And I go online and the narrative, and it's not from United fans. There are United fans, but my point is not United fans. My point is the narrative that I see from people that are not Manchester United fans, that don't know what the fuck happened at this football club, right? I'm watching them and they're like, look what happens when you leave United. And they're talking about Greenwood having a resurgence in his career after he left Manchester United. And this is what I'm talking about. Our name is being dragged through the mud in the wrong way. And I'm fucking tired of it because United fans want to join in with it. And I think it's a fucking disgrace that they do this. Okay? Whatever you think of him, the pure fact of was that Greenwood, before he did what he did, there was no issue of him not playing for the team. If he wasn't playing bad, we were all happy about it. And he looked very promising and bright talent. Okay? You fast forward down to today, half of the world just automatically say, oh, look, his career was, you leave Manchester United, you become a superstar. It's fucking bullshit. It is bullshit. And this is what keeps happening. And this is what I'm saying. That narrative needs to stop. It needs to stop. Lucky says, "Long Kobe, buy midfielder Atletico Madrid, do it. Crook should just be quiet," says Grace. Well, listen, but this is the thing. Like, these people, Alex Crook and others, they are rated by our own aggregators. When they speak, when they say something, they take what they say and they repost this to hundreds of millions of United fans around the world, and people read this. So they will listen to this, and when they say things in a certain way, people will read it and they take it a certain way. Because they're like, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that go, well, he's a journalist, he's in the know, he must know something that we don't. And it's like, but don't be so gullible. Read between the lines. He clearly doesn't. When he says something has clearly gone on behind the scenes, clearly, I'll make the same thing. Clearly, he doesn't know what the fuck has gone on behind the scenes. Because if he knew, he would tell us. Because it would be one of the biggest stories. And as a journalist, you would break that. Because you're going to get all the attention. You're going to get all, it's going to be massive for you. But because he's a journalist and he's given his opinion, but he doesn't word it in a way where he's given his opinion, people take it as fact. And what happens is he's making this situation a lot bigger. He's taking the knife, he's sticking it into the wound, okay? Nobody is happy that Kobe is in this situation. We all want to see Kobe play more. We want to see Kobe given more opportunities. You got these journalists and these other people, these pundits, that are taking the knife, they're sticking it in the wound and they're twisting it to make it worse because they all hate Manchester United. And some of our fans are too ignorant or naive to realize what they're doing. And they're jumping in with it. And they're taking that anger, they're taking that hate, they're putting it onto the manager. This is like a 3-4-fold process that's going on here. And they're jumping more hate onto the manager for it. Listen, you don't have to like him for it. But when they're going out into the atmosphere and they're telling everybody and they're hitting home on it and they're riling everybody up and they're like, yeah, you know what? They're right. Like, fuck Ruben, fuck him. Look what he's doing to Kobe. Fuck you. Okay, but what is that person's agenda? Is he a Manchester United fan? No. Most of them aren't. Scholes will have his opinion. And listen, I'll respect that because at least he's part of the club in some sort of way. He's a legend. But when you get people, like, I don't know what Alex Crook is. I don't know what these other journalists are. I don't know what fans they are. When you have the people on Sky Sports or BT or BT Sports or ESPN or whatever, right? And they're saying these things in this way. What is their agenda? They don't like Manchester United. They don't want to see us well. They don't want to see this guy. They don't want to see this kid be part of our team. They would love nothing more than for him to leave. They want him to leave because they know what he is and they know what he can be for our team. And they know how he can be very important to us. So they want to make it much more toxic as they possibly can to get this kid out of the football club. Alex Crook loves stirring the pot. I only listen to facts and general information from Manchester United. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, these guys, they're very good. They're very professional at what they do, and they will word things in a way, and people, it's fine if you're on an individual level, but you have to think about the masses. And the masses, unfortunately, there are people that just are they're way too gullible, and they will read something like that, and they'll be like, oh, when these things come out, they'll be like, it's over. His career's over. Why'd the manager do this? It sends people into a hysteria. It sends people into a fucking panic. It sends them into a complete meltdown. And then what happens is they go online and they start expressing this. And the anger grows and builds. And the whole situation blows up. So, but listen, that's it. That's it for today. So, get out of here. We'll come back tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, tuning in. Be good. Stay safe. Thank you for smashing the like button. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. I greatly appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, there is Europa League or something like that or whatever. But I'm going to do... we'll go live at 8:30 p.m. UK. So be on the lookout for that. I'll have the show scheduled about... a good 40 minutes before we actually go live. So, you'll see the thumbnail. What I will ask is, try and get in there early. Hit the like button early. These things matter. They do matter on YouTube. It does make a difference in terms of the video getting pushed out. Even if you jump in there 5 minutes early, create sort of a waiting room. YouTube likes all these things. So if you want to support, if you want to try and help, get us back up. I mean, because we are down right now. I don't know what's going on with the channel. Like, we're getting substantially just like less pushed out there. I don't really understand why, but we're gonna try everything and we're gonna persevere through this, and we'll get back to where we were before. So yeah, I hope everybody has a good night. Enjoy the rest of the Champions League football. For those of you that are in the Discord, I'll jump in the Discord. I'm gonna put the matches on, and we'll give some opinions about there, and then I'll see everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. UK time. Be there, get there early, smash the like button early. If you have any social media, share the link on there as well. Everything is a massive help. So thank you guys. Be good. Have a good night. Stay safe, and we'll see each other and speak to each other tomorrow.